Doctor, look.
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Dr. Homebrew. We are homebrewerless. We are one judge short today. Mr. Brian Shaw he's actually building an orphanage in Sao Paulo.
Yeah.
So he can't make it. He's doing good things. Him and Bill Gates are microchipping the population, and it'll be so he can't make it. He had to engineer the whole thing, so he had to be there for the delivery service. It's a whole thing.
We're one judge shy of a full deck.
That's right. Yeah, but we have Mr. Brian Cooper here, and that's really all that matters. What's up, Brian? It's like old school time again, right?
I'm here. Yeah, it's here we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where's Keith?
Where is Keith? Where's Keith Cost? Little bastard. Out in the Midwest somewhere having a good time. Potentially.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, whatever. Who knows? But anyway, we do have a couple home brews for you, so we're going to get through those. And I'm excited about it. And then another show, I don't know actually when we're going to do this because, opening the kimono, as Jamil would say, kind of just wing this show. Planning wise, and I didn't read all the text messages, so I don't really know what Brian Cooper has in store for me, but I'm sure it's going to be awesome. You know what I mean? But we're going to be talking some non-alcoholic beers in this dual episode and all that kind of fun stuff. But right now, what we have in front of us is an amber from a home brewer called Dimitri. Dimitri, welcome to the show, my friend.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You look, I'm sure you get it all the time. You look way too young to be talking to two old guys like us. I feel like Kendrick Lamar is going to write a song about this moment at some point.
That's funny.
Like what? How long?
Wow, that is a fresh reference.
It's a fresh reference, right? It's pretty good. Albeit maybe slightly awkward. How long have you been homebrewing, man?
I've been homebrewing. It's about to turn. I'm about to have my 2-year anniversary with homebrewing the end of this month.
Nice.
So I've been homebrewing since
Okay.
2022.
All right. And how you liking it so far?
It's great. Yeah, just everything about it, like the community. I mean, the main thing about it is like the art and science aspect, and just like the endless learning. Are you like a science dude? I went to school for nursing, so I kind of like really into like science, and then I'm also like an arts guy. Like I did like drawing, like theater, just all that stuff, and it's kind of like a nice like mix between the two. It really is. Yeah, there's a lot of people who do really well in this hobby are generally have some sort of science or engineering degree or background, rather, not even degree. It's that especially if like engineering side is like how things work. Why this does the thing. I used to talk to a lot of dudes where it's like, I don't really like care how it comes out. I want to know what happened. I want to know why it happened. I want to know how to replicate it or not replicate it. Same thing with the kind of arts too. And kind of like an arts background. It's very, I don't know, cathartic or something to just make this thing. I made this. Oh, definitely.
At this point now I'm like, I don't really care if it's great or not. I'm not chasing the 50-point beer anymore. I just like the process and doing the stuff. So that's cool to hear. We don't really talk to many like freshly minted home brewers on the show. So it's nice to kind of just, get that perspective.
It is cool.
Yeah. I mean, like right after I turned 21, I kind of like just wanted, a new hobby. And I just thought of like what I liked at the moment. And I was pretty like psyched to be able to go to breweries and stuff. And, like after school, like after exams, I'd go to field work like over in Santa Fe because I went to school like at Dominican.
Okay.
And I was just amazed with the variety of beer. I mean, that's kind of like everyone's story. You're kind of just exposed to like the 805 and Modelo. And like when you go to a brewery, you just kind of realize just how much
fucking college beers
there is to offer. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like field work, I don't know. I mean, they're good dudes that make good beer, but in my mind, they're sort of like one. They do like light hoppy beers and that's it. I think it's very funny where it's like field work opened my mind up to this world. But it's true. They do a lot of stuff that I don't really see because it's like tap room only. Yeah.
Loggers and things. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I mean, the hazy IPA was kind of like the thing that drew me in, and I think it drew like a lot of people in.
Yeah.
And also like seeing like pictures of their sours, like, oh, I didn't know beer could be like pink or red. And so that kind of like unlocked like this whole new world. And
that's cool.
I kind of just thought about, like, why don't I try making beer? I mean, no one really knows like how beer's made. And so that was kind of like a whole rabbit hole. Yeah.
So you just kind of researched it yourself. No one you knew was like a home brewer and said, "Hey, come in and let me teach you the ropes" or whatever. You just did it on your own.
Oh, you're kind of reminding me of kind of like the origin story. I was actually just like sitting in class, like it was a spring semester, just kind of thinking about. I was kind of like daydreaming and just like thinking about what to do over the summer. And I was like, okay, I think I'll make beer because I'm enjoying like. The drinks at fieldwork.
Yeah.
And I brought it up to one of my instructors. And it just so happened that one of his buddies is a homebrewer, and he's actually, I think he was relocating. And so he was actually getting rid of his old system. Oh, and that was just the perfect opportunity.
So did you go straight up all grain or did you go extract first?
I didn't really get that much guidance, but we did like a partial mash.
Okay.
Because I did go to there was somewhat of a local homebrew shop that I kind of, I guess like, I didn't really plan to go, but it's this one in San Jose. I don't think it's still there. It's called Beer and Winemakers of America.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys know Rich from there. Anyways, it was a partial mash American Pale Ale.
That's nice. That's cool, man. Going partial mash. I did like 3 partial mashes in my life, and I was like, you know what? I just would rather do all grain.
Go all in,
yeah. Because it is that good transition. Yeah. It's a good training wheels to go all grain. It's like, well, what am I doing? Might as well just do the whole thing like this.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And like before that, I made sure to like watch like all the YouTube videos just to get the process down.
Man,
and it was nice like having the guy like walk me through it, and it was just like such like first brew day was super fun, and it turned out to be a success because I actually planned to have that brew day to serve that very first batch of homebrew to like my friends and family, like at my 22nd birthday.
Nice, dude.
So that was awesome.
That's cool. Cooper, can you imagine just like watching YouTube videos, learning how to homebrew when we first started? Can you imagine?
I got the book that came with my kit and I read like all 96 pages, like 3 times.
Bro, I got a 2-sided sheet of paper.
Yeah.
That's like telling me what to do. Cat can go.
I got the Hop Tech instructions
with
the kit, and then I read that a bunch of times.
Yeah,
and started with extract, but until I saw someone do full, all grain. My buddy Al Branch brewed a batch in the back of Hop Tech there, and I was like, "Oh wait, that's easy. I can do that."
Yeah, it's super easy.
I'd read it a million times. I'm like, "Oh, it still sounds confusing. I'm just reading this book." But if there were YouTube videos showing people doing it, I would have been on board way faster. I was
absolutely,
like 6 months. And hemming and hawing, and then okay, that's easy. I can do that. Just seeing somebody do it.
Well, today's content-focused generation, Cooper. That's how you reach them. That's how you reach the millennials.
Content is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, especially like nowadays. It's not even like the lengthy YouTube videos. It's just like that short clips
and shit like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like I mean, every platform has like their own version of TikTok, like the YouTube Shorts or something.
Reels.
Yeah, YouTube Shorts. Twitch is now getting in the clip game, so they have they have like a built-in clip, not generator, but fucking thing.
Pretty soon it's just going to move from clips to like blips, where somehow just in 1 second, all this content just goes straight into your brain, and you're like,
well, I think it's great, like the shorter form content, because there's there's so many people who do 15, 20-minute videos. And it's just like, hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Captain Fuck Pants, and I'm here to, talk about this. But before I do, this video is brought to you by your sponsor, Balls. And it's just like, God,
smash that like button.
Yeah,
subscribe.
And then it's like over and over. But I like TikToks because it's condensed by definition. Anyway, whatever. I don't know what we're talking about. Let's drink some beer.
That's a good idea.
So, Dimitri, do you know? Are you like one of those homebrewers who keeps track of your how many beers you've made, how many batches you've done? And if so, what batch is this?
Yes. I'd have to double check. I think I haven't even brewed 30, and I don't know. I just feel like a lot has happened these past 2 years. Yeah, this is is 24.
Like culturally, or like just in general, or just specifically with beer?
Just like my homebrewing career, I kind of, the rabbit hole is very deep.
It gets you. Yeah. It gets under your skin, and it's like a bad meth visual where it's like, there's things under my skin. What is it? Oh, it's recipes. I need to brew all these or I'll never rest.
Yeah, it's like after that first brew day, I just like had to know more, and like every day I was just thinking about, there's just like so much to learn. Even like now at this point, it's like you barely scratch the surface.
Yeah, it's a hobby. I've always said it's a hobby where it's as complicated as you want it to be. You can go get into water chemistry and all that kind of stuff, or you don't have to. And as long as you understand what you're missing out on, you're okay. It's fine. It's a choice you're making, right? But if you're struggling,
it's super cool.
Yeah.
There's something for everyone. Like, sorry.
No, you're good. You're fine, dude. We're just bullshitting. Why amber ale? Are you trying to just brew all the styles, or is that a style you're sort of gravitating towards?
Yeah, I do want to kind of dip my feet into like the different like classic styles, but I kind of like to brew what's not available to me.
Yeah.
And I know, like I was talking to Brian, like he said that, amber ales were like popular at some point, but I rarely see like any like variant of like an amber beer.
Yeah, dude.
Like, being poured.
We did Boone Amber on the show one time, Anderson Valley. That's a good solid amber ale, American amber. Is. But yeah, again, it was like in the 90s and aughts, it was much more prevalent.
And I feel like beers like that, specifically those kind of older styles that are still around, like the Boone Amber, I feel like they're like hanging on by a thread. They're like the old guy at the bar who doesn't die. It's like, when is he gonna die? And he's like 95, and people are poking him with a stick to see if he's still alive. Like, it's that, or it's like he's just there. It's culturally part of the zeitgeist or whatever. Like, Boone Amber will never go away. And I don't know that's particularly like amazing beer, but it's a solid. And I wonder if like commercial brewers sort of keep that alive, right? Of nostalgia. It's like, let's just do this or do this. Because I've never seen anybody who's not in the beer industry drink a Boone Amber.
It might be.
I've never heard of it.
It harkens back to a time when, like, you would walk into a brew pub, and or a microbrewery.
A microbrewery, yes, absolutely.
And you would walk in there, and they would have like 6 beers. They'd have a blonde ale, they'd have a pale ale, then they'd have an amber ale. Sometimes they'd have a brown ale, and then like a porter and a stout. Those are the only things that aren't really named after the color of the beer. It's just we've got an IPA. That's the third one.
Those were my favorite. Where it's like, at some point you can sort of plot when beer names became names and not just the style.
Name a color. What kind of beer do you like?
The beer, it's like, I had the amber. Oh, yeah, from where? Oh, from all the breweries. But now it's like, it's like Boone Amber, or like now it has a name.
Yeah.
Rather than just the style, right? Where it's like, the pale ale, the pale ale, the pale ale. But now it's brew free or die IPA instead of just IPA or whatever, right? Okay, well let's get in some beer. Cooper, why don't you go first?
Yes. So we should explain first. We had some technical difficulties. I managed to recap this bottle. I was going to make a joke about the fill level being down to here, but I purged it with CO2 as best I could. I couldn't really repressurize it, but I kept it cold, and it's been like a week and a half. So I'm surprised it's still got it had a little hiss, and it's got a little carbonation, and the head is still there. So it's I wrote my sheet out then when we had technical problems with JP's interwebs, and but then now we're doing it for real. So I'll be tasting something that's probably going to taste a little different than what I'm describing, but that's okay. First question for you, Dimitri: are you a member of a homebrew club?
Yes. Shout out to the Bay Area Masters.
All right, I like those.
We meet in Alameda at Faction.
Nice.
great spot. Okay. So yeah, originally when I judged this one, the fill level was great, nice hiss upon opening. In the nose, what I got, it's quite caramelly malty rich up front. A medium high level of that. Hops are medium low, mostly resiny with light citrus and pine. Moderate fruity esters with a bit of stone fruit kind of edge to them. No DMS or diacetyl. I thought it just either the flavors are a little muddled or they seemed a tiny bit oxidized, but I wasn't getting like paper or extreme cardboard. Just kind of a little like a sweetness edge that sometimes can be from caramel malt or something, or sometimes can be from oxidation. But I want to say it's probably just from the caramel malt. But well, I also knew the ones I got were the ones you bottled before I came over, and then the one JP has is going to be the one that we bottled at your place and we capped on foam. Yeah. So we got that whole story to talk about too.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if his has that kind of edge to it too, or if it's a little brighter.
I'll never tell, Dimitri. Don't worry.
Okay. Appearance-wise, it pours a deep reddish orangey amber color with a medium light tan head that persists quite well. The beer is very clear. Nice job of clarifying it. The head is creamy in texture with some larger bubbles, but mostly finer. Gave it a 3 out of 3 for appearance. I was on 8 out of 12 for aroma. In the flavor, it's got a rich maltiness that just dominates with high caramel, much like in the aroma. It wasn't cardboard. Once I got into the flavor, I'm like, this doesn't seem like cardboard or paper. So I'm not sure about any oxidation. Probably not. The hops are kind of medium resiny with a light citrus. There's a very, I guess, kind of a staleness maybe to the overall flavor. I was still going back and forth on that, but I knew too much. I guess I knew you might have had not the greatest filled method I don't know.
I was too smart.
You've also won awards with however you filled the bottles at the World Cup of Beer too. So I don't know. I analyzed too much. It's definitely a malt balanced beer. And despite any like edge of staleness, the ingredients seem fresh, if that makes any sense. But I like the resininess of the hops, and the caramel is just really kind of overpowering in it, and like it lingers into the aftertaste, along with there's a medium low bitterness, and it has a semi-dry finish. It doesn't finish really sweet. It seems like it attenuated fairly well. In the mouthfeel, it's a medium-bodied beer, medium low carbonation, no warmth, slightly creamy. Didn't get any astringency. It smells okay there. So I had 12 out of 20 for appearance, 3 out of 5 for mouthfeel. Maybe I should have gone 4 there. It's mostly okay. Just a little light on the carbonation. But yeah, overall impression seems like a well-brewed American amber ale with good ingredient use and a nice firm malt. You could say it could use a little bit more hop, although the bitterness is at a nicely restrained level. It's not overpowering the other elements. I would carbonate it a little bit more, and just avoid oxygen contact when transferring or packaging, in the keg and or bottle or from the fermenter to the keg. But I still wasn't sure about that. But I landed at a 32. I thought it was a very good beer with some minor fixes that you could do to it to make it excellent. I think kind of the balance was just all rich caramel, and like everything else is kind of subdued. Maybe the carbonation would bring out some of those the nice hop aromas that are there a little more brightly. But yeah, I like the beer. It's easy to drink, and it's actually held up pretty well in the bottle I just opened. So.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Yeah, our text message thread is basically Cooper and Shar both going, I don't know if it's gonna hold up, and I'm like, it's fine, you guys, it'll be all right. That's why we judge it first. Why don't I get my impressions, Coop, while you go through Shar's?
Yeah.
and pick out any maybe important bits you want to talk about, or you want to hit, or at least get the scores or whatever.
I thought you were going to read Shar's.
I don't have Shar's.
Did he send you his?
No.
Oh.
That's why I don't have it.
Huh.
But if you have them in an email, you can send it to me, and I'm happy to do it. Overall, I really like this beer. There is big flaws. First, there is kind of like a butterscotch thing happening. It tastes more like a light brown ale, because there is a lot of that caramel malt in there. But I think when I taste beer, I take it in and I taste it, and then I try to strip away what I think is wrong, kind of whittle it down and think how that would taste. And I think overall, I think it's a great recipe. I think it tastes really good. The butterscotch for me, I would chalk up to just oxidation or something like that. Like I wouldn't really, I don't know how it tastes off the keg. But if it's as prominent now, I would imagine that you would taste it. So that might just be oxidation. But I think this is a really good amber ale. It like I said, it borders more on a brown ale for me without the hops. So if you bumped up the bitterness a little bit, and what I'm tasting, for me, it would just be like a brown ale. So I think if you can back off on some of those caramel malts, and I'm interested to see what it kind of tastes like, a pale chocolate or something, but I don't know. Back off on the sort of like mid body malts, because I think ambers should be a little more, not easy drinking, but a little lighter in the mouth feel, a little lighter in the sort of crystal mid palate, foundation, but you know what I mean? The kind of mid range thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Borders on kind of a syrupy seeming beer, like that.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. I mean, I could walk you guys through the recipe.
Well, let me give you well, hang on a second. Let's do, I'm going to do, I would say like 34. I think it's good if it didn't have the butterscotch, which again, I think is just because it's an older, it's been on, you don't drink a beer from a growler after like 3 or 4 days. Any brewery will tell you that. Like you drink it the next day, maybe the next day and next day, but that's it. But then it's going to degrade. So I'm not judging that. But if I was at a bar and I ordered this, I would definitely order another one, because it is very good. There is that kind of sweeter crystal, but it finishes dry. I don't know. I like it. I think it's really great.
You got a whole half growler of it there. Perfect. I have minimal comments from Brian, just what we discussed the night that we judged it and we exchanged scores.
Yeah. But
I do have good news for you on Brian's score. It was even higher than either one of ours, and he went all the way to a 37 on this one. So if we're at the judging table, I'd be the low man out. He'd be on the high end. JP, of course, cool as a cucumber, right in the middle.
That's right.
We'll probably land more on his score.
Don't worry. I'm working on that in therapy to figure out something I enjoy. So,
I mentioned to me, the amber was very caramelly, which covered up the hops. And I felt maybe mine was a little stale tasting with the beginnings of some oxidation, perhaps. And he just said, agreed on the amber. So, and that's all he said about that. So,
that's fine.
We're supposed to have gotten his sheets, but that's what he would have said. He'd just say, I agree with everything Brian said. Oh, and I give it a 37.
Which is fine. That's fine. Let's take a quick break for a second, Dimitri, and we're gonna come back, and then I want to go through your recipe. I'm very curious about it and where you got it from. I need names.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, hang on. When it's Dr. Homebrew, we'll be right back.
What's up, homebrewers? Hey, let me ask you a question. You spend a lot of time making your beer taste the way you want it to, right? Some of you even send beers into Dr. Homebrew for feedback. Well, the next logical step in your creativity is to craft some labels for those beers. And there's nobody better at creative labels than GrogTag. Their easy-to-use designs let you turn out some pretty amazing stuff like labels, bottle caps, coasters, even six-pack carriers with minimal effort on your part. They have a range of label sizes that fit any vessel you can think of. Bottles, cans, growlers, kegs. GrogTag has you covered. Head over to grogtag.com today and check out their line of amazing, fully customizable templates and get your beer looking its best. GrogTags are water-resistant, reusable, and will have your naked bottles looking great in no time. That's grogtag.com, and be sure to use code BNARMY at checkout to save 10% on your order.
Dr. Homebrew. are, please. No, and your tea time has been moved to 2:30.
All right, thanks for hanging around, everybody. We are about to dive into Dimitri's amber ale recipe that got, what was the average, 36 or something like that?
Yeah, we'll land on a 36 consensus.
There you go. Yeah, pretty good. Mr. 2 years home brewing. Yeah, give me this recipe, man. What's in here?
Yeah, so actually what was cool about this is actually my first time using crystal malt. And you know, I tried to be wary about the amount I used, but yeah, I'll just walk you through the recipe. So for a 5-gallon batch, I did 7.5 pounds of pale malt, 1 pound Crystal 60, 1 pound Victory malt, and then 1 ounce of Carafa Special 2. I know it's kind of just for color. And then I bittered with Magnum at 60 minutes. And then I layered some Chinook and Citra at 10 minutes, and then flame out Chinook Citra.
Definitely taste that Chinook, like that resiny quality. That it has.
And I think that goes with crystal malt.
And with this style, it's more of a classic style. You wouldn't want to use a super modern hop with it.
No, imagine this with like this tropical things, man, like Sabro or some shit. No, man. Yeah, it is very old school. It's that combination, I think, of Chinook and crystal malt is like, you're talking like mid 90s for me. I don't know. Maybe I've got my timeline wrong, but definitely. Yeah. What do you think, Cooper? My default is to be like, well, I don't know if he needs color help with Crystal 60 as well. Like, I don't know. I think the Carafa might not be needed, but I would also maybe go Crystal 40 or maybe Crystal 15 and Crystal 40, kind of get a crystal layer, but I don't know.
Yeah. Crystal is a little dark and overpowering. So blending some, if you want some 60 in there and the 40, I think that the color that it got from some of the, the darker DS malt is nice. And I'm not getting too roasty on the edge. I don't think that hurts it. It's not getting that. If you add way too much, you start to get a little, edge to it from that.
Yeah. For me, it's always like been a raisiny thing, like a golden raisin, those dried golden raisins that no one likes. Like it could be like that.
About? Are you getting it?
No. I'm saying like if Cooper's saying if you use too much crystal malt, it can kind of push in these weird flavors.
Yeah.
So I think what he's saying is you've controlled that very nicely.
Yeah. Well, I was saying the dark D has the Carafa 2, was it? Or
okay, yeah, Carafa 2, yeah.
Just like another buffer for the color.
Yeah, I think that's just giving you color, and you're not getting anything odd from that. But yeah, the caramel is a little overpowering, and layering in some lighter caramels will give it a little more honey-like and brighter caramel colors in the middle, where it's like a dark, almost not burnt over caramelized, like dessert-like caramel. I
was actually pretty surprised with like how punchy that crystal came through.
Yeah,
and I like to keep my recipes like pretty simple. Yeah, so just like to know like the variables.
That is good. I would definitely keep doing that because less is often more.
Because there's like some recipes where I'm just like, man, you really know like how that variable like contributes to the end beer.
Yeah,
like it's like really like small.
Generally, it doesn't. I think. I don't know. I think Cooper. I don't know your input on this, but I feel like sometimes when you're making recipes, you just sort of put stuff in based on a feeling, not because
feeling. Yeah,
not because that it does anything. It's like it might, but if I leave it out, I'm gonna get itchy. And I don't want to get itchy when I drink this beer because I should have put it in. So typically, if it's one of those things like I don't know either way, I'm just going to keep doing it because I'm not selling it. Who gives a shit?
It was like every single one of the old hop tech recipes that I used to get when I was early in my homebrewing days. It would always have a 1/4 pound of wheat malt in it, and a 1/4 pound of carapils in the 5-gallon batch to give it good head retention. And just a little bit of body, I guess. But yeah, it's just
look at this. I got from Hop Tech. I brewed this on 12/1/97 hoppy pale ale.
Yeah.
Recipe right there. 7.5 pounds pale liquid, 1 pound crystal 17. I've never heard of crystal 17.
Crystal 17.
I've never heard of that.
15 to 20, and then it's
okay. 14 grams of Australian dried yeast.
No wheat and carapils.
No.
Okay. I think that at the shop they would always just mix it in. They're like, oh yeah, you need this too. Throw it in.
Yeah. The first one I ever did was the Pacific Coast Kit Killer Whale Stout.
Cool.
Just I thought I'd share that with everybody.
I did the Blue Whale Ale back when, and those recipes are all from Pacific Coast, and they were an extract brewery in Oakland at the time, and they shared their recipes with the homebrew store. And
97, baby. Anyway, what do you think about this beer? So I think, I would change the Crystal 60 for like a 15 and a 40 or something like that, because Cooper's right. You want to get a little bit of a layering action in there, because like you've discovered, Crystal 60 can be, it's sort of dominant.
And it's going to be more smoothly drinkable that way too, just a little lighter and more. But it's
probably check out. Yeah, I tried to do like some preliminary research, like with like how people use like the different crystal malts, and I know people, like some people even like refrain from using crystal malt like nowadays.
Yeah, which I disagree with.
It seemed that like the lighter crystal, I mean it does like have like a little. It can like add a little bit of like malt complexity, but for the most part, I think the way people use it is more so for color. Maybe, do you think like maybe drawing back the Crystal 60 would, work too? Like
you
aside
can do
from
that.
like substituting like the
40, I think
20.
if you want to just keep using 60, I would just cut it back. I'll let Cooper explain how much, because I have no idea. But because either way, it's overpowering. What I like about layering, especially crystal malt, is because you get the best of both, right? Crystal 15 is very light and kind of straw, like Cooper saying, honey kind of thing. And then Crystal 40 isn't as aggressive as 60, but you still get some of those light raisiny notes, those light caramel notes, and the combination is very good. If you kept it 60, I think you would keep that sort of old school vibe that you have with this beer, which I'm not opposed to. I think it's good. So you can kind of do whatever you want.
Sure.
I knew this guy. He used to be a professional brewer, Colin Kaminsky, and he had this 100 grain recipe where he would take, your grain represented as 100%, and then you break it down where you go, let's say your base malt is 70%. So you would take 70 grains of your base malt, and then whatever percentage, 10% is crystal. Okay. Then you take 10 grains, and you add it up to 100 grains, which is 100%. And then you take it and you put it in your mouth and you crush it. And you chew it, but you don't swallow it, and you let it sit in your mouth for like a minute, 2 minutes, whatever, because the saliva enzymes will convert the starches to sugars a little bit, and you can get a rough estimate about what the final product's going to be. It's not anywhere. It's like water divining or whatever, right? You know what I mean? It's like it's not really gonna be that, but you get a good feel for it. So share that with you. Maybe that'll help you, especially I think with things like this. Or should I go all to 60, or should I split it? What's that going to taste like? You don't want to brew 5 gallons of each and then see. Maybe you do. No, I don't know.
Yeah. I thought I was following you for a second there, but then you did this complete like swerve. It's like with the putting the grains in the mouth and like. Okay. Yeah. No, I thought you were going to talk about like, brewing like hop teas, like where you just like. Yeah. And kind of do like a mini mash, like in like a.
You can do that too. Absolutely, you can do that.
Yeah, I guess it's like the same effect, and then like you can kind of like mix it together and just see like instead of brewing the entire batch, like going through like that whole process.
People do like a French
I thought that's
press.
a cool concept.
Yeah, I think it's neat. I mean, you could even also, if you wanted to do like get 3 pounds of extract, and then steep the different grains in and split it up.
Yeah,
and,
steep the grains.
You can do you can do that too. There's a lot of stuff you can definitely do.
I thought you were going to use like 100 different grains, like have a recipe with 1% of each grain. And
that's exactly what it is. And you blend all the batches together.
I don't know. I wanted to loop back to the comment about crystal and the kind of the blowback against crystal that happened, maybe 15, 20 years ago, kind of started happening. when the IPAs started getting lightened up a little bit in color was around the time when, people wanted their IPAs lighter bodied, and it started to be more trendy to have even more, expressive late hops. And when you have a lot of crystal in a beer like an IPA or a pale ale or even an amber ale, it gets in the way of the hops. I'm sure I forget how much you said you put in there, but it's a substantial amount to cut through that. And as you back off those, I was always making my pale ales and stuff. I always have caramel malt, but then, see recipes like, it's more like people use Munich malt and use the other things that don't have that rich caramelly thing that's going to stomp on the hops a little bit. So I think that's part of where it came from. And some people just got a bad taste for them because it was like so prevalent early in the microbrewery scene that was like,
they want to switch,
relied on it too much and didn't use other grains that they could use in their palate at their disposal. And
you want to save money. I think there's a money component. Like, John Meyer at Rogue, used to always say, or it actually took him a while because he got a really big reputation for having a lot of hop profile, hop flavor, hop bitterness. And he was like, my secret is I use 20% more crystal malt than I normally would, because that gives a buffer for the hops. So you can over hop things and get all those qualities, but he's counting on the crystal malt to squash the bitterness,
pull it back.
To pull it back. Right. But you can still, front load the hops or whatever. But I think as, hops got more expensive and all that kind of shit got more expensive, people are like, what if we just didn't do that? I don't know. But now we're just the old guys at the party cornering the kid going, do you know when I was your age, blah, blah, blah.
You're being booed to amber.
That's right. Yeah. We're like, we're never going to die. We're Statler and Waldorf for the beer industry.
At this bar.
Do you have any questions, Dimitri? Are you, what do you got to say? Kid, what do you got to say, kid? Are you good? All right.
This is fun.
I like the hop selection. I like 90% of this beer. I think it's great. I think it's a good, and amber is, I think maybe what you're learning now, it's kind of a difficult style. It's easy, but it's hard to make it taste good because it's so
I was hoping
easy.
that I was hoping like this beer would also teach me kind of like how Victory malt would also come into play. Like it's the biscuit malt in terms of like, layering that malt complexity. For sure. Yeah, I did notice like how overpowering the Crystal 60 was. So I'll definitely make that change.
Well, yeah, and you said it was kind of surprising
allow the hops to shine more. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So on this episode, or if we're doing it on the next one, we also need to talk to Dimitri about his recent exam and the process leading up to it, because we worked together quite a bit, I would say, leading up to his exam. So I'm excited that you just took the exam last Saturday in Alamo. And
the BJCP's exam.
The judging exam.
Yes.
So he's becoming a beer judge.
I love that. Well, let's take a coaching session. Let's take a break and let's figure that out, because that's what we do here on Dr. Homebrew. All right, everyone, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hello, fellow BNers. This is Sully from the 21st Amendment Brewery located in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park. Before Nico and I opened the 21A and before I was a professional brewer, I homebrewed on my small 4-burner apartment stove in a back house in Santa Monica, California, making my extract brews before graduating to the daunting idea of all-grain brewing. Homebrew books and information was hard to come by back then. The internet hadn't been invented yet, along with other things we take for granted today, like electricity and potable water. One thing I wish I had back then when I was learning was a radio show that could teach me the ins and outs of brewing and answer questions that I had about homebrewing, a resource for making great craft beer. The 21st Amendment Brewery is excited to be a proud sponsor of Dr. Homebrew, a great show that teaches you what you need to know about making incredible beer. Good stuff. Listen up, you might learn something. I certainly did. And thanks for your support. Tasty Crack Kings.
The leader in affordable, high-quality kegerators is here. Introducing Komos, the kegerator designed with serious beer drinkers in mind. It features an all-stainless steel draft tower, a major upgrade over traditional chrome-plated brass towers, and Komos keeps your new tower cold with their air-cooled tower fan, wrapping your beer lines in frigid coolness. Your beer is poured from innovative forward-sealing faucets that don't leak, so they stay cleaner for longer. Dual gas inlets on the rear of the fridge allow you to run both CO2 and nitrogen gas. Serve your beer with CO2, serve your kegged wine, or even cocktails with nitrogen. The digital temperature display has the largest range available, allowing you to use the Komos kegerator for fermentation if you need to. And now Komos kegerators ship with duo-tight draft fittings for that click-to-connect assembly we've all dreamed of. Buy direct from KomosDraft.com and receive free shipping on your order. That's KOMOS Draft.com.
Now, back to the examination.
All right, thanks for hanging around, everybody. We are back, and we're going to be talking a little bit of BJCP exam prep, or at least how Brian Cooper makes learning a nightmare for everybody.
Yeah, that's what I love to do.
What's going on, Coop?
Well, back in the early days, I was just thinking about this, how I was asked to be a steward at this competition, and and then I got there the day of, and they were short on judges, and they're like, "Well, do you want to judge?" And this is before I even thought about it. I was just starting to get involved with helping out with the competition and throwing my hand up, and I'm just like, I'll just be a steward. It's okay. But and then soon after that, I met my buddy Dave Teckham, who had a syllabus in his booth at NCHF, the Northern California Homebrewers Festival. Yeah, goes over and gets it, hands it to me. He said, "You can do this. We've got a study group going with our club. You can set one up for your club, do a 10-week course, learn how to be a judge." And I just got the vision, like, okay, I can do this. And I like, I would send him sheets, and I would send written exam questions and all this stuff to David, and he would pay attention to it, grade it, look at it, send me feedback on what I'm doing, and tell me how to improve myself, so I know how to be a better exam taker, what a grader's looking for on a score sheet that you turn in, and all of that.
It's a better person in general. Yeah,
I continually try to give back. When I see somebody who's who needs some help and wants to has the motivation to take the exam and try to do well on it, maybe has a good start already, heck yeah, I'm in. I want to help. And so we did a class in late January. Robert from the Bay Area Masters was running a beer judging course. I can let Dimitri talk about that a little bit, but you guys went through the whole 10-week thing, with different classes, different teachers. I taught one of them on judging tips, how to fill out a complete score sheet, and so that was just a tiny part of it, but it seemed like a well-attended class. They had a lot of interested people there, and they were paying attention and listening. And I just threw my email out there. Anybody wants to send me a sheet? I got, and then I got sheets from Dimitri. I got sheets from another guy, and I try to get feedback on those as I get them. And sometimes I can go from there. Like, okay, I'm going to fix that, and I'll do some more sheets and send it back to you. So, I'll let you talk about the experience from your perspective there too for a bit in the class.
It sucked. I hated it.
How the torture, yeah. God, this guy.
The worst thing ever.
It was everything I dreamed about.
700 words in 15 minutes. You have to write an essay. No.
Yeah, how was prepping for that? I did it, and it sucked. I fucking hated it. I hated writing all that shit, and I wonder how it is now with a younger person who probably hasn't seen a writing utensil in their entire life. Just typing on shit.
It's so funny because, you sit in the exam, it was at this one dude's house, and you're kind of just like, what am I doing? What am I doing here? It's just crazy, how everything just, kind of led to that moment.
Yeah, but it's kind of fast, to just basically be brewing for 2 years and you're already doing BJCP shit. You already got roped into that Ponzi scheme.
I know, like I said, it's definitely a rabbit hole.
Yeah,
in terms of just learning more information. I started off with that that piece of paper that the guy at the homebrew shop gave me. And then I was slowly learning from the guy that was walking me through my first brew day. And then YouTube videos, but then I couldn't really find everything on YouTube. So I bothered the guy at the homebrew shop. And then that led to like that guy, the homebrew shop guy kind of was the one who pointed me at the Bay Area Mashers. And, you know, joining the club like really increased like the rate at which like I would just like learn like way faster.
Yeah,
if that makes
for
sense.
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just tasting with
And
people,
then
talking about procedures with people. Yeah.
Yeah, just getting everyone like picking at everyone's brain and experiences. And then I guess like BJCP is just like another, you know, pathway towards I don't know, like expanding my knowledge for brewing, I guess.
Yeah.
Now for me, a lot of times I'd have a certain taste in my beers. I'm like, what is that? I don't know what that is, you know, and I'd get a feedback to my beer once in a while. It's like, oh, holy crap, this beer doesn't
once in a while.
good.
Listen to this guy. Every once in a while, like one in every 1,000 batches. It was like,
Well, I mean, I was fermenting in a plastic bucket, and I was not using PBW or Star San at the time, and I was just scrubbing it with hot water. And I didn't have the right. I don't know. And eventually, I got some scratches in it, and it started harboring some bacteria. And I had one batch I called Porter Gone Postal because it just went really weird. It must have been like acetaldehyde or something, or a phenolic, probably like a peppery something. But at the time, I didn't know how to detect that or what it was, so I just was guessing. But as you become knowledgeable about beer judging terms and how to write your own score sheets, you can start to pick those things out. It doesn't diminish your enjoyment of beer. It just aids in your understanding of the beer and makes it so that you can improve it, so you don't have that shitty beer the next time.
Yeah, I was actually just going to touch on that. Like, it's sort of like a double-edged sword. Like, the more you learn about beer, like, I don't know if it makes you become like so aware that you become. I know, like, beer snob is kind of like a term. Like, you kind of like picky, especially like when you're just, you know, out with your friends, you know, like kicking it, like having a beer. You're kind of just sitting there and like tasting, like, oh gosh, this beer has green apples in it.
Knowing about
this
beer
means, like,
has sufficiently reduced my enjoyment level of just having a relaxing beer. You don't just go to the store and buy beer anymore. You go like, well, what's good? So you have to like look at everything, and then you go, well, this beer, you're that guy, and then it just becomes ingrained in your personality, like just what you do, right? There's a pattern you fall into, but there's a moment. A brief maybe moment in your life where you're like, I hate myself because I've taken the joy out of just having a beer. The good news is you're coming up in this era where there's a lot of good beer. So it's easier to find good beer. But there was a time when that was not the case. And it was a lot more painful going out and having a beer with people because it's like, oh shit. Like, Nick, no joke. There was a place, several years ago that 17 taps and 15 were IPAs, and I don't like IPAs. So I'm like, I'm miserable, and that was like the hot thing. And I think a lot of that's pulled back now. It's still there, but not as much. So there is that where yes, you can get caught up in the, I want something that tastes good because I know what tastes good, and I'm like learning, especially as a BJCP judge, you're learning to detect the flaws. But the flaws don't necessarily need to detract from if the beer's good or not. And that's the other side where it's like, you're not filling out a score sheet. Yeah, this could be better, but it still tastes good. Ultimately, you're not. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's really funny. You know, this whole thing too, like just like learning about beer, it kind of like you said, it kind of becomes part of like your personality. And, you know, it's just so funny whenever like I'm with my friends, you know, they always like ask me like, oh, what do I think about this beer and stuff? But, you know, when I'm with them, you know, I kind of just like want to turn like my brain off and just like enjoy the beer like for what it is, you know?
Yeah.
They're like, they want you to showcase your superpowers.
Can you recommend this beer on the menu? No, it's your taste, man. It's what you like.
I know, it's like, it's whatever you want.
Yeah.
But anyways, so I took the BJCP like sort of like prep class in January. And And yeah, it was like a 9-week course, and it was kind of cool the way the syllabus was like organized. Like 1 week would be like dedicated to like, just like the ingredients, like what is malt and like the mashing process. And then it'll kind of like the beers that we would taste about like 3 or 4, like either commercial or like homebrew examples. That would be like more like malt forward and stuff, just to tie in like with the didactic portion, I guess.
Yeah.
So I thought that was like really cool. And, kind of showed me like, it like walked us through like that whole process of, filling out the sheet and just, how to get in touch like with your senses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Funny thing too, when we were doing the class for BAM, I came and I brought a bottle of this beer that I had brewed, and I made it a fast lager with some old, dry yeast that had been kept warm for a while and then went in the fridge and was sitting around for too long. It was Lutra, and I just put in the dry yeast and thought I was making a fast lager at 82 degrees, just doing that stupid thing, just to try to rush out a beer for our in club competition. Well, it ended up not so great. And so I brought it to that class.
That's so weird that it didn't turn out great.
It wasn't as good as my Dr. Hombre, but that was a lot fresher yeast.
Yeah.
Hey, you'd be surprised though. I brewed with Lucha probably like 4 times. It could come out pretty clean, like at those high temps.
I just need to use fresher. It was just a packet I had around. I thought maybe I could get
older one.
It was really old from Homebrew Con, and it came back in my suitcase and it was warm for so long. But anyway, I shared it with it. It was had pretty strong acetaldehyde. Like I get as pumpkin skin. Some people get as green apple, and but there's different ways to get it too. And then I kind of forgot I'd shared that with them. And then as it came time for Herendu to organize his exam, I'm like, oh hey, by the way, I've got this beer you can use if you want, because I was just sitting there taking up space, and I'm so bad about throwing away beer. That's horrible. I was like, here, have a growler full of it. And he went and got it and he tasted it, and it was completely flat. I don't know if it just lost, maybe the keg had a leak or a gas leak or something, and it went completely flat in the keg. And when I tasted it, it was pretty flat, and I couldn't taste the acetaldehyde very much anymore. I'm like, oh, maybe it faded. And he got the same thing. He's like, well, I'm just going to put it in a soda bottle and he was insisting on getting carbonation in that thing. So he did. And that's one of the beers he used on the exam. And now I got score sheets from a couple people on that beer. And I guess the proctor scored pretty low, like low 20s. And that was perfect. Yeah. So I wanted it to be like a low 20s kind of a beer, not teens necessarily.
No, and I did. Yeah. As I was like sitting like during the tasting exam, I was like, okay, Dunkelsbach. And then
where have I had?
I remember like, this is pretty familiar. I remember like having one like pretty recently, but I didn't make the connection then. And I did. There was like something off about it. Like I kind of got it, like kind of like this like sour, like acidic kind of like thing, like kind of like grape skin
or grape skin.
Yeah, something like that. But it wasn't like the classic green apple. I'm not sure if it off gassed like in my sample, but I kind of scored it a little higher than the Proctors. Anyways, yeah.
Well, yeah, you show me sheets. So you went from writing some pretty decent sheets, and then as we went along, I got sheets from him later that are just filling out both sides and writing comments, all very complete comments, and writing the times on the top. And
that's what Brian loves. Brian loves a front and back sheet writer.
People know what they're getting themselves into. Well, I don't want to sit there and look at it and say, oh, you didn't practice writing all so fast that your hand feels like it's going to die. One guy
I get that way of writing my name, dude. Like I've typed so many years, I just don't like. Who cares?
My June exam last year, there was one guy that couldn't finish a whole complete final one of the sheets and a half, like because he ran out of time, and just it was hard just physically to write that fast and get everything out. And if you practice it, it really, really does help to get. And he's writing the times on the top of the sheets. This one was done in 15 minutes. This one was done in 17 minutes. Then they're very complete. So I predict you're going to get an 83. I don't know. We'll have you back on the show. I
don't really know what that means, but
it's better than an 82. That's all I know. But it could be an 84 with a little bit more hard work.
But yeah, it's the difference between writing a high 70s sheet and an 80s sheet is really nailing that completeness. You can you can hit master level on completeness. And even if you missed a couple perception things or your scores weren't perfectly calibrated with the proctors, which they never will be, those are things you can't really control. You'll still do pretty good, and it'll average out to a higher than just 70 something. So, but I don't know. I got a 77 the first time I took the exam, but it was both parts together way back then.
Yeah, I think I got a 68. Yeah. That's what I remember.
It was pretty funny, like before. Sorry.
Yeah,
it was pretty funny, like the conversations we were having, like at the table, like before the exam. We were all talking about, like, man, I'm pretty nervous. I mean, I usually have a beer after my exams. Not really. I was just cracking up. That was super funny.
Yeah, it's very odd to go into like a clinical setting. Like, here's your beverage.
Yeah, it's like I've never been nervous about a beer before.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I also got a few bonus beers when I went over to Dimitri's and we had a little bottling session. I showed him how I bottle with the bottling wand jammed in the bottle with the little stopper around it and purging the gas kind of as it goes. But he gave me a few other beers that he had bottled. I've got a cream ale that I'm sipping on right now from him, and it's actually pretty tasty. It's got a real subtle malt and low, it's got kind of a nice creamy mouthfeel, really good head, beautiful clarity and perfect color for the style. I guess the one thing I would say is it doesn't have any real corn-like, anything in there, but a little corny flavor is commonly found, but it's light DMS is optional. But this one is fairly semi-dry. It's not really sweet. It's kind of nice. It's one of those like lawnmower ales. They just drink a lot of, and it's real easy sipping. So just wanted to say thanks for sharing that. I've got a couple others we can comment on the show if we get time.
Yeah.
But I would this one I would try to bring up a little bit of corn-like flavor in it.
I wish I had that. I mean, I used 20% like corn, but I didn't
20%. Okay.
Shine.
Yeah.
Give him a score, Cooper.
38.
Whoa, really? Yeah, I'm actually pretty surprised.
Too low?
Very clean. Upper 30s. It's
too high? What are you surprised?
He thinks it's too high.
Man, I
think it's too high.
When I was tasting that, I mean, I'm kind of sad now that I ran out of it.
I'll get used to
I served
that.
Served it at a party. That one's called a social lubrication.
Cool.
What would you give it?
Man, I'm glad
Dimitri, what would you score it as? So you can remember back.
I would have given it like low 30s because I think early on it might have off gassed or something, but I don't know why, but I threw Cascade, a little bit of Cascade in the flame out, and it kind of gave it this white grape kind of winey character, but I guess some people didn't pick up on that.
Well, as the beer ages too, that'll fade out a little bit. So I'm not getting a big, any late hop notes in it, but
I'll brew it again then.
Hell yeah, dude. Great. Sounds good. Well, let's get out of here. How about that? Let's wrap it up. And Dimitri, you're going to stay on because we're going to take your porter next, right?
Yeah.
Talk about that. All right, cool. Well, thank you everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Dimitri, thank you very much for being on the show and talking to us a little bit about
for having me.
Some beers and what it's like, refreshing our memories as to what it's like to be a young buck in this industry. Back in my day, we used to kiss each other or something. I don't know.
But we'll take beers from anyone.
We'll take beers from anyone.
And to get your beer on the show,
young or old.
Yeah.
No young people, only old people from now on. I don't like this. Yeah.
Email Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com and we'll give you the instructions for getting your beer on the show. Or mead or cider. What happens?
That's right. Or kombucha or whatever you want.
Yep.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody. Until next time, we'll see you.